Welcome to 21st Century Saints. I don't think we had audio in our intro now. I don't have a Zen moment. That our intro music it's normally our little Zen moment, and we didn't get that tonight. So I'm really sorry, audience, but I'm more sorry for myself. However, we have something really big to talk to you about tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. We have been talking for quite some time across our social media channels about the announcement that we'll be making tonight. So before we get started, while I get a little bit of information up to help us introduce the big announcement, I'm going to get our team to say hey. So let's start with Ruth. Do you want to share with our audience, because I know we've got a lot of newbies with us tonight, do you want to give a little bit about who you are, your backgrounds, where you're from, and that kind of good stuff?
Okay, I'm Ruth. I'm the newest member of 21st Century Saints. I am a post-Mormon, still on the records, definitely not believing anymore, but loving these two lovely ladies, and loving lots of people who still are Mormon and go to church every week. So I'm here to add my thoughts after 30 odd years active believing member, convert back in the 80s, did all the Mormon things and walked away in recent years.
Sarah, how about you? Do you want to say hey to the gang?
Hi everyone. Yeah, just quick intro. I pretty much hang around 21st Century Saints and Brit Vengers, doing a lot of stuff with them around safeguarding, around how we can help move the church to become a safe, nurturing environment with some kind of equality, where the scripture that gets preached a lot is actually lived, whereby we actually believe that the worth of all souls is great in the sight of God. I'm incredibly nuanced, very, very nuanced about the church, but still choose to hang out with the church, as I do choose to hang out with other faith communities and do my own thing as well. Been a member for about 45 years, all the normal Mormon CV stuff that we could all go on about for ages, but heck, what the heck, it's much more fun just being a normal human being, I think. And I think being a good human matters so much more than what your religion or your faith or anything else is. Just be a good human.
Absolutely. Just super quickly, could you give us your background, Sarah?
Okay.
Yeah.
I think Jane wants, probably because it fits in a bit with what we want tonight, the announcement we want to make tonight. My background is probation officer, social worker, working for over 30 years in the field of sexual harm and sexual abuse. And that brought me to a deep interest and deep commitment to safeguarding and managing risk and making environments as safe as they can possibly be, and making sure victims get looked after the way they need to be looked after and risks get managed the way they should be managed, which has brought me into considerable tension with the church, because the church haven't been very good at that in the past, or at the moment have not been very good at that, and it's brought considerable tension. And we set about in August to bring about some discussion around safeguarding in this environment. And Jane and I and Ruth, we've all got together and we're like, hey, come on, we can make a difference. We can do something in this space.
Absolutely. Someone in the chat's telling us it looks like we've got a background. I don't know if we've got any video or audio issues, but our usual streaming service has changed a little bit. So I'm not sure if it's caused any issues here at all. If there is, let us know in the chat and we'll do our best to sort it out. But possibly you might have to work with what we've got here. So I'm super sorry if that's the case. But as long as you can hear us, that's the important thing. Okay. As for me, I'm Jane. I am one of the co-producers here on the show. We talk about lots of issues around the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, specifically the whole restoration movement, Mormonism. We cross the Mormon spectrum from true believing Mormons to ex-Mormon spaces to people who have never been affiliated with the church at all. And that is really important to what we're going to talk about tonight. So I want to take you back through our countdown, because we've had this news for quite some time. We've told you all that we, along, especially this past year, we've told you all some of the things that have been happening that we can't wait to tell you about, or we've been able to drop little sort of breadcrumbs of things that we are aware are happening. Tonight, we're able to give you just about the whole picture. But we want to explain a little bit about how we got here first. So we did a countdown 3 weeks ago when we knew we were going to be broadcasting tonight. We began counting down from day 21. And I just want to get a little thought or two from you guys if you have anything that you want to share about this. But on day 21, we had talked about some of the stats around safeguarding, that over 1/3 of all police recorded sexual offences are against children, that girls and older children are more likely to experience sexual abuse, and the vast majority of children who experience sexual abuse were abused by someone that they know. Now, this came from an NSPCC survey in 2021, I believe. The other stat that went hand in hand with that on day 20 was this really interesting one that is super relevant to the church. And that is that on day 20, we shared that 63% of adult safeguarding issues in the UK affect people who are over the age of 65, which is super, I think, relevant to a church which is mainly made up of older people, right? We then moved on to some information about ICSA. Now, the ICSA inquiry, so this is the independent inquiry into child sexual abuse for England and Wales. This was some information that they released in 2022, along with their findings. The Scottish survey, the Scottish inquiry will be releasing its findings. We believe it's this October. Countdown Day 19 shared this quote from the ICSA inquiry. Across all faiths, religious leaders have significant power and influence. Children are often taught to show such figures deference and respect. Those in positions of leadership often act as advisors, confidants, guides, and helpers. Religious leaders can abuse their positions of trust. Excessive respect or veneration of leaders within religious communities may result in a feeling that they can act with impunity, and may also contribute to a victim being reluctant to report abuse. On day 19, we continued with the ICSA inquiry. Again, another quote. There remain religious or culturally sanctioned views or practices about disclosure that reporting a fellow member of a religion is a betrayal of the community and contrary to religious laws. Religious organizations can also prioritize their reputation above the needs of victims of abuse, and so discouraging reporting. On day 17, we shared some more thoughts that were shared. Now, this was from the charity 31/8. They talk about how the concept of forgiveness can be misused and even weaponized. Church leaders and members can intentionally or unintentionally put pressure on victims not to report abuse and justify failures by religious leaders to take appropriate action. I know that all of these will be hitting home. We often hear that these things are, leaders aren't perfect. They're only men. On day 16, we have another quote from an organisation who works in this space. It says, "We have seen from recent high-profile inquiries the immense and long-lasting damage caused when abuse is perpetrated by someone in a faith-related role. We have also seen how ineffective, unprofessional, or defensive responses are experienced by victims as re-abusive, sometimes worse than the original abuse itself." On day 15, we, for the first time, shared part of our progress in what we've learned from our safeguarding our safeguarding questionnaire. So lots of people have reported to us directly. We also have launched a questionnaire at the beginning of the year to make it easier for those who prefer to remain anonymous or who may find that reporting tool helpful. But we were specifically asking about abuse in the context of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Countdown Day 15. In our 2023 survey, the overwhelming majority of respondents so far have told 21st Century Saints that they feel that their Latter-day Saint community did not support them or only supported them somewhat after their experience of abuse. Now, the figure on that is the amount of people who felt supported is in the sort of 2% of respondents, which was horrifying to us. We then moved on to Countdown Day 14. In our 2023 survey, no one has so far reported to 21st Century Saints that they felt supported by our church leaders after disclosing their abuse. No one. On day 13, we share that in our 2023 survey on abuse in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, respondents have so far told us some of the barriers to reporting that they faced include the fear that they would not be believed, that their abuser held a position of leadership, their bishop told them they should forgive or stay with their abuser. There was the fear of shame, the shame of their abuse, the fear of coming forward, and often the victim themselves was blamed or discredited. On Countdown Day 14, we quoted Elder Kieran, who said there is no place for any kind of abuse, physical, sexual, emotional, or verbal in any home, any country, or any culture. Thank you for that, Elder Kieran. Absolutely. And then we moved on to day 11, where we quote President Dallin H. Oakes, who said in a general conference in 2012, children are highly vulnerable. They have little or no power to protect or provide for themselves. Children need others to speak for them, and they need decision makers who put their well-being ahead of selfish adult interests. On Countdown Day 10, and just a trigger warning, which we should really have given at the beginning of the stream, but these are some quotes directly from victims. On Countdown Day 10, we share some of these quotes from people who have reported to us. I've heard the whole God doesn't intervene thing, except he does repeatedly in the scriptures. So apparently he just doesn't intervene in cases of abuse where priesthood leaders are the abusers. The only thing I'm interested in at this point is justice, and the church is in no way, shape or form about justice. It is, in fact, opposed to justice. I am still afraid of my abuser. Countdown Day 9 is some more quotes. My abuser is from a well-known family. I didn't think anyone would think it was important. I told a member of the bishopric, but he just shrugged his shoulders. My friend left her abusive husband. He was able to continue in the church like nothing had happened. My leaders sided with my abusers. On Countdown Day 8, we share this. In October 2019, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints gave evidence to the Independent Inquiry into Child Sexual Abuse in England and Wales, ICSA. In October 2022, ICSA published its formal recommendations. Churches who gave evidence were invited to formally respond to share the learning they had gained from the process. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has not published a formal response. We hope that's still going to come forth. Countdown Day 7. We're into our timeline stage. Countdown day 7, August 2022. 21st Century Saints formally contacted the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints to ask for more robust safeguarding practices. Day 6, September 2022. 21st Century Saints began working with national charities, political representatives, legal organisations and therapeutic services on safeguarding. Countdown day 5. In October 2022, 21st Century Saints published an open letter to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints calling for greater safeguarding measures. The open letter was co-signed by members of the church, ex-members, leaders, influencers, podcasters and YouTubers across the world. You can find that open letter at 21stcenturysaints.org, and it's been co-signed by people like Natasha Helfer, Radio Free Mormon, Bill Reel, the whole Brit Vengers team, and lots of familiar names who have stood with us during this process. Countdown day 4, January 2023. 21st Century Saints sent letters to every bishop in every ward in the United Kingdom, informing them about the current laws around safeguarding and providing information about where they can find out more information about their statutory obligations. That caused the church itself to send a letter also telling bishops about their statutory obligations. I'm sorry, right, behave. Countdown day 3. August 2022, 21st Century Saints launched a petition asking for improved safeguarding measures in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. That's also available on our website and is still open. Countdown day 2, March 2023, 21st Century Saints presented about our work on safeguarding in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints at a national conference on abuse in religious settings. It was really well received, and we continue to meet with people who we've been introduced to in that space today, literally today. And finally, day 1, which is going to bring us right up to speed. Since 21st Century Saints started our work on safeguarding in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, we have regularly met with church leadership. We have provided information on policies to leaders and legal representatives. We have written to every bishop in the United Kingdom. We have spoken to over 100 people who have been affected by abuse in the church. We've supported victims to access legal and therapeutic services. The church established a safeguarding committee. So before we continue, guys, anything you want to share about our journey so far?
Can I just say, my camera seems to have frozen completely. I'm trying.
It's okay.
I don't want to leave in case I can't log in again. So I think you're stuck with this horrible image of me for the duration.
It'll settle down at some point.
Okay. I am trying to log in on my tablet to see. So have a look, James. I'm trying to log in on my tablet to see if that rectifies it.
No, you're all good.
Okay, but if not, I apologise, folks.
No worries at all.
I would like to say well done to you two, because I sit here and I feel like I'm taking credit for work that I was not helpful in at all. You'd both come at it with a ton of energy, and Sarah with a ton of real practical professional experience to throw at it, and a world of contacts, both political and journalists and all the rest of it. And I am in awe of you two. The way that you've managed to just roll up your sleeves and get stuff done is incredible. So hats off to the pair of you. And isn't it amazing what can be accomplished when there is a will to do so? Because you have managed to bring this conversation forward in the short space of time that you have been involved in doing so, quicker than anything I've ever seen happen in 30 odd years of being a member. And that's being in callings where I was asking for safeguarding checks and balances to be put into place, just for practicality purposes, working in primary, working with youth, and working at the time at myself in school settings. I knew what good safeguarding looked like. And yet, even with sensible heads in ward councils, things did not change. And you guys have managed to just get conversations going, get people around tables, and yeah, hats off to you.
Thank you so much. But also, I would point out that Ruth is part of the Brit Vengers. Anyway, I mean, Ruth is one of the people who first signed the open letter before she formally began working with us. Ruth has very much been part of this journey too.
Definitely.
Sarah, any thoughts on what has happened up until this point?
I think we've had an amazing experience as far as doing this work. We've been touched by the stories that people have trusted us with and have shared with us. They've touched our hearts in a way that we will never forget, that have been powerful. We've had moments when we have been incredibly frustrated with the church. We've had moments when we've had very difficult conversations with people from church, with church leaders, with our own priesthood leadership, and with lawyers and with various people. There's been difficult conversations. We've had to navigate that space of saying to the church, actually, this is not good enough, and we do fully intend to hold you to account, because this is not acceptable and it's not okay. But we will endeavour to do so with kindness and love at the same time. But we're not about to be quiet. We're not about to be silent. We're not about to let you carry on ignoring responsibilities that need to be taken seriously. We've had fantastic opportunities to work with national charities and other professionals in the field that have been quite shocked, really, when we've spoken to them about what hasn't been happening at church. And they've been a bit like, seriously? Really? But we've had the opportunity to be able to have some really good conversations and to open up the agenda so that it's become much wider. I think one of the things that I think has been really positive is we've been able to open up the discussion with the wider church membership about safeguarding. And it's now quite normal and common for people to start talking about safeguarding, whereas before nobody was ever mentioning it. Yeah, you'd get these talks where they say abuse wasn't to be tolerated, and there was no tolerance for abuse. But on the ground level, nobody was talking about abuse and what that meant. And I think we're starting to see, I think we got to a point now where this can never be put back in a box. The church can never put safeguarding in a box, put it on a shelf and walk away from it again. They can't.
So something that I had observed, obviously child protection issues, worthiness, bishops' interviews, background checks, these things have been spoken about for a very long time. But it wasn't until Sarah began working with us that suddenly the word safeguarding is, I mean, we hear it constantly in the UK in an educational context, in anywhere where there are children or vulnerable people, elderly, any public space, we hear safeguarding. Sarah has been trained in creating policies and working using the language of safeguarding. And so as you came into this space and started applying it, we're now hearing the word safeguarding being used everywhere, and that hadn't happened before.
And the word that they've mirrored that we've used a lot, we use about robust safeguarding policies and practices, and now we keep hearing them saying, well, we need something robust. And yeah, really, where did you get that from?
Oh yeah, so it's within the church and within other podcasters or people who are talking about the subject. So yeah, I'm gonna we've really struggled over the past few weeks with talking about what our place has been in this. One of the things I've been able to recognize is, one, Sarah, because of her expertise, has changed the language that we use to describe safeguarding within a church context. You did that. So congratulations. That's something that you've changed the landscape on. But another thing that had happened, now, it drove me crazy when the church would leaders, we drove them crazy just as much as they drove us crazy. We work in, so many supportive ways. They know that we love them. They know that we may or may not have the hots for a couple of them. They know that we are there to support, but we are also there to keep people, you know, as Sarah particularly, there to keep people honest. This is important, and we're not going to polite our way back out of this. So if it makes you uncomfortable, then you have to think about that. So yeah, we all drive each other crazy. When we presented, we gave a preview of what we were going to be doing during the abuse conference, because we wanted church leaders just to know that we were doing this. You know, and there were really great dialogues that we had. We made it clear, if the church is doing anything really well, we want to shout that from the rooftops. For example, the process of annotations of church records. Now, that's problematic in lots of other ways. However, when it comes to safeguarding, having a worldwide joined up system where if someone moves to any other area in the world, that information goes with them, that's huge. That's something that other churches don't have, because they don't have the ability to work in the way that we do. And there are lessons that can be learned from the church there. Like I say, problematic in other ways, not always used effectively. You know, we're always going to ask for the very best standard of what is possible to be achieved. So even when something's good, we're still going to say it can be better, because it can be better. But yeah, then when we found out the church, we were told the church had established a safeguarding committee. So I'm going to talk about the positive around that. But oh my goodness, I was furious. I'm like, we are doing all of this work. We're meeting all of these people. This is a simple decision that is made. This is a church with structures of discernment. And what do? You set up a freaking committee. That's it. That's your action. Are you being serious? And I was furious.
And not just they set up a committee, but they set up a committee 4 years. 4 years. Well, no, let me give them credit. Yeah. Three, nearly 4 years after answering to the government about what they were doing as a charitable organisation.
Yeah,
that I'm sorry, that is not being on the ball about things, is it? That's not evidence.
I think it's so relevant.
They genuinely are motivated and care.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I think it was the fact that the committee was established to make recommendations to the area presidency. I'm like, you can't make these. I mean, we've been making these recommendations forever. Sarah, on an individual basis for years, other people who have all of these expertise, people have been making these recommendations.
Yeah.
We have been asking since we started working in this space, please work with an external agency, because they're the people that will oversee and keep you right and tell you the things that you need to be doing. And that's something that's really important.
It takes all the heat out of it. Is this an ecclesiastical matter? Is this something that's to do with my testimony? Or is this just, I need to report something, I don't need to interfere with my relationship with God. I'm just going to go report it over here. That seems healthy, and like you say, it holds people to account, which is what we want.
Huge, and it shows a great willingness on the church to be open, to be transparent, to want to benefit from the expertise that we see in our community, in our society. That the church actually want to do the very best they can.
Yeah, absolutely. But to be totally fair, like I say, it was driving me crazy. It was driving a few of us crazy, but also there was this wonderful thing that a committee in church terms, that is huge. And then I remember asking Sarah, Ruth, you have a nice clear idea of what church history looks like and its messiness and complicatedness. When has that ever happened before?
Yeah.
When have let's go further. When have the causes that women or people who are working in this kind of space, when has any activism ever caused a committee to be set up to look at recommendations?
I can't think of a situation where that has happened in recent times. It just doesn't. What tends to happen is people get excommunicated, and then the church has a light bulb moment and goes, oh, do you know what would be a really good idea? That thing that excommunicated member got excommunicated for, let's do that. So,
Yeah.
Right.
so for it to go this route is novel. For it to go the route of people are making a noise, rather than excommunicate them, we won't necessarily involve them in the decision making. However, we'll form a committee and we will think about some things that they might have raised, and we'll try and do it with a level head and forward some ideas. Now, I get angry about it because I feel like that's a watering down of a watering down of a watering down, while everyone's trying to be nice and not do anything that would make anybody think we're trying to be activists and create change. However, at this stage, I'd be happy for anything to move this organisation in a direction towards safeguarding.
Yeah.
Anything.
So that's going to bring us up to our announcement. I had anticipated, I think, along with the rest of us, that when there's a committee involved, we're talking a couple of years. This is something else that you're going to have to fit around your calling. This committee took it seriously, and they treated it with a level of urgency that is unprecedented. While we're talking about this, I believe the only precedence in church history for anyone asking for something and it happening was Emma Smith when she spoke to Joseph about her concerns. And even then, that decision was taken straight to the Lord. So I have never heard of a committee being established before. And if that had happened with other things that members are seriously concerned about just now, I wonder what that could look like. And so I want to just honour this moment, honour the fact that it happened, honour how the committee approached the work. Now, we did, because we're cheeky, offer to be part of the community, especially the committee, especially
I offered
because Sarah knows what she's talking about.
They didn't actually want us to sit on a committee officially, but they were happy for us to send lots of information to the committee.
We did. We sent a lot. They were very clear on.
Happy for us to submit lots and lots of documents, papers, information, answer questions, but they didn't actually want us to go to any of the safeguarding committee meetings. I think we could have been very helpful, but never mind. The committee happened.
The committee happened, and yes, it was treating this with urgency, and the area presidency have listened. And so in a few days' time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share the video of when we broke this news to the Brit Vengers, because it's just at this beautiful moment. But what I'd like to do, Sarah, is to hand over to you, and if you could tell us what's been announced.
Now, this is when I'm regretting that I can't see my own facial expressions at the moment. Although it might have been quite useful for a lot of this, that you haven't been able to see the faces I've been pulling. Okay, so you want me to share the announcement?
Yes. So there is a letter that's going to be going out. So if you could let us know the contents of what that letter will say, and it's going to start hitting inboxes
today,
any moment. Yeah, this evening. It's coming. So
it should be hitting stake presidents and bishops as we speak.
Right.
We have had it confirmed to us that the church will be implementing several of the safeguarding recommendations that we requested started back in August last year. One of the things that we requested was that there should be background checks undertaken on everybody working in this church, working with children, vulnerable adults, young people, or in a position where they may be working with those people and have time alone with them. The church have agreed that they will now undertake DBS checks as an official UK-wide church policy. These DBS checks will start on the 1st of July. Now, that's fantastic news. A lot of people will say, what are you bothering with these DBS checks for? We're bothering with them, and we push the church on it because it sends a message to offenders that this is an organisation, an institution that recognise abuse and are on top of it and will be looking out to protect its members. It also sends a message to victims that the church care about their experience and want things to be better and safer. So the fact that we have got an official UK-wide policy that there will now be DBS checks undertaken throughout the church starting on the 1st of July is fantastic news. And don't let anyone ever tell you that speaking out and rocking the boat doesn't work. Don't let anyone ever tell you that, okay?
Now, we're not done because there's more.
We're not done yet. The other fantastic news is there was discussion from the Safeguarding Committee early on that they would have a pilot of safeguarding and they test it in one area. And we were like, hold on a minute, you can't decide you're going to protect children in one stake and not bother protecting children in all the other stakes of the country. So they have now agreed that they will not pilot the DBS checks or any other safeguarding measures, but they will actually implement them nationwide. The other
so just
one
to clarify for one of our audience who are asking this, now, I would love to know that I would love to hear that this is Europe-wide. What we know is this is UK-wide. So that's all we know at the moment.
Can we put a pin on that? And can we come back to worldwide in Europe a little bit later? Because we have got some comments to make on that.
Keep going.
Now, the next one, the third one that has been announced at the moment, is one that is of great excitement and great interest to us, in that the church are announcing that they are going to have a safeguarding specialist called in every stake throughout the United Kingdom to work with the stake president and to work around safeguarding issues within that stake. And the plan will be that they will call people to that position that already have an understanding, knowledge, experience of safeguarding in some way. Now, that safeguarding specialist has to be in post by the end of August. So stake presidents have really got their work cut out for them. They've got to explain and help the membership of the church understand the role of DBS checks, background checks, because they have to start on the 1st of July. They have to have a safeguarding specialist called by the end of August. So there's a lot of work to be done by stake presidents to identify who that person might be and how they're going to set that in motion and get that in play. So that's some fantastic news around all of those as well. So
can we do, so yeah, because there is one final part of this that's super interesting. We do at this point want to pause and just acknowledge. So first of all, we're going to talk about the responses that we've already had. We've communicated with the two people that we first started working with that caused this campaign. We want to acknowledge that for people who have experienced abuse in the church, this can be incredibly painful. We also want to acknowledge, wherever you stand in this space, that this is still not enough. But these are the first steps. This is now happening. We are able to, you know, as we said we would do, shout from the rooftops. The church is doing safeguarding. Now, what we want to do is to make sure that is done not just efficiently or effectively, not just robust, but that is the best that it possibly can be. We already have concerns, and we will be telling you what they are. We will be telling the church what they are. But this, as a first step, is incredible. We want to mourn and acknowledge those people who are hearing this, feeling let down, hollow, and hurt because it's too little, too late. We see you and we stand with you, and we will continue to work to make sure that this space changes and that you see justice and change. In addition to that, there are people who, you know, think this is all a big PR stunt, that the church is just, you know, just doing this because it's somehow wants to look good. The church doesn't do anything it doesn't want to do. It really does. Even when it has to, it doesn't. It just doesn't. We know normally the church is dragged kicking and screaming into this space after we've all been excommunicated, and that hasn't happened. It hasn't come near happening.
It hasn't happened.
And in actual fact, the final part of the announcement, so we have there is going to be no pilot. They are going to establish the church is establishing safeguarding throughout the United Kingdom. Safeguarding specialists are going to be called in every state of the world, of the United Kingdom,
UK.
and of the United Kingdom. We're hoping for the world. We'll talk about that next. We are going to see safeguarding treated as something that will be part of what do you know, whenever they do the sort of assessment of financial accounting and they go through an audit. Sorry, thank you for that, Sarah. Yeah, so we're going to see safeguarding training and compliance treated in that way. So those things are huge, and they are new for the UK and for areas of the world where they are already happening because the law requires it. That's wonderful. But here it has not been required by law, and the church have chosen to do this. Now, that's really interesting. And I would like worldwide for people to be thinking about why that has happened and how that happened. We are all in different Mormon spaces. We were accompanied by, signing our open letter. We're believing active Mormons. We've had church leaders reaching out to us. We've had decision makers reaching out to us, all people supporting what we are doing. And we've stood shoulder to shoulder across the Mormon spectrum with the dissidents, with the excommunicated, with the angry, the vulnerable, the hurt, with the TBMs. And we all asked for this. Yeah. And that has not happened before in Mormon history. We didn't stand together on one subject, and now it's happened. Mm-hmm. And so as much as I want to congratulate Sarah, look what you did, look what your expertise did.
Well, look what everyone in this space has done, Jane. We've all,
it's what you did.
So many have contributed to this.
Right.
To this.
The people who bought the stamps for us, the people who sat up all night sharing their stories, the people who have listened, and the people who were asking us, do you really think you're going to make any difference? Yeah. I wouldn't get up in the morning if I didn't think I was going to make some kind of impact or difference 100%. In the world, but it was never ever about that. No. This was about us being able to work in our own integrity. Yeah. At the risk of potentially losing a church membership. If a call had to be made, then, people were welcome to do that. So in that spirit, as we're talking about integrity and where we stand as individuals, the final part of the announcement, which I think is super exciting and is also very telling. Sarah, would you like to share with us your news?
One tiny second. I just want to go to something that Mary has said. She said, would a specialist be someone who's already trained, like social workers, or will the church train them? There is a plan for the safeguarding specialists to receive additional training and external and good quality training. We're questioning and exploring some of that with the church at the moment, but there is definitely going to be some very good training in place around that. So they may already be trained workers, they may not, they may just have some experience, but there will be some good training going along, and we are going to be keeping a very, very careful eye on the training. Okay, so the next, Jane, I think you need to announce this next bit.
Okay, I will happily. So the safeguarding specialist, we're already seeing questions about what that's going to look like in the ward and, at a stake level. And we don't really know because this is entirely new. Things are still being put in place, and so we will keep you posted as soon as we do.
It is something we suggested and we recommended, though. We did ask the church to think about this in order to ensure stake persons could do a good job.
Now, we also recommend, and this is based on ICSA recommendations. Everything that we recommend isn't just from the top of our head. It's all informed by scholarship and research. And we recommend that the people who fulfill these callings, who are called into these callings, are women. Ideally, it would be wonderful if the people who were safeguarding specialists weren't people, because you see in this system, we are very intimidated, whether that's soft intimidation or directly, the bishop has this under control. We know what we're doing. The safeguarding specialist can now go and sit back down and it's okay. We've got this, sister. Thank you very much, which is what we're used to hearing. So yeah, we're looking for empowered, knowledgeable people to fulfill those roles. And that looks like that's what there's going to be criteria for safeguarding specialists. And as far as we're aware, the very first person to fulfill this calling in the United Kingdom to be called into this position is our very own Sarah Elizabeth Delaney, who was called a couple of Sundays ago and was sustained in her ward. Yep, is about to be set apart in a very short while. Yeah. I had my sustaining vote. Thank you so much, Sarah. Thank you for accepting that calling, and we are so excited to find out about how it's all going to work and what it's going to look like, because I think the safeguarding specialists all over the United Kingdom are going to inform what safeguarding is going to look like.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Well, all I was going to say was, and I know sometimes I can come across quite negative about the church, and it's the church as an organisation that I get passionately incensed about. But when I think of the women that I met through my journey through Mormonism, I know some cracking ton who have huge amounts of knowledge, experience, professionalism, who could Sarah comes with a ton of skills and knowledge and experience. And I know lots of women up and down the length of this country who also do and are still active believing members and would be happy, would be thrilled even to step into those sorts of roles. And it's a win-win for the church. Not only does that mean that they are using capable people to their full potential, but they are also then safeguarding the next generation of who they want to still see in the pews in 20 years' time. You know, if young children really matter to you, if the youth of this organisation matter to you, if you're really concerned about people having families and coming to church and feeling safe and feeling like it's a good place to bring their friends along to, then take safeguarding seriously and use the tools that you've got available to you, which are strong, powerful, professional, knowledgeable women that are there already. They're there. They're ready to be used.
Yeah.
Sarah, I'm going to come to you for a second because I think it needs acknowledging it, and I really appreciate the support, and the chat has just been incredible, and just thank you all so much because it's your voices that have shaped this journey. But this isn't easy, Sarah. This, to accept a calling, and because you're nuanced.
Yeah.
Will you speak to us a little bit now? Just before you speak to us about the price you pay to step into that kind of calling, would you also speak to the question someone has just asked about? So will this also mean that specialists will be mandated reporters?
Well, the specialists, the church can't, the specialists will not automatically be mandated reporters, but one of the recommendations we made to the church was that they have to accept that every single case has to be reported and every single concern has to be reported. So even without legal mandatory reporting, we are recommending and have recommended strongly to the church that that's actually the route they should go down. And I would expect safeguarding specialists to take responsibility to make sure that is actually pushed, and the church are held to account to ensure that they do deliver good quality safeguarding. So they absolutely do not, and hopefully will not, and I will be challenging it if they do, call anybody into this calling who's going to be a yes person, because there is no role for yes people in safeguarding. They need to call people into this position who are willing to hold the church to account and hold stake presidents to account, because they want things to be right and safe for vulnerable people, not for any other reason, but because they want it to be right for the most vulnerable. And that's what it has to be about.
And that's what robustness looks like, isn't it?
Isn't it?
It's being a critical friend. It's being somebody that says, I love you enough to tell you this is wrong, this needs to change.
Absolutely.
And I think the church has a very fragile ego when it comes to things like this. And that's held them back and made people unsafe and caused huge amounts of heartbreak and huge amounts of damage to people that you know, is irreparable. However, this is the chance, this is the opportunity to actually put in place the right caliber of people that can hold the church in the nicest possible way, accountable, and help them to do the right thing, not the right thing for the church.
Yeah, absolutely. And back to what you were saying, Jane, about me stepping into this space to accept the state calling. It's kind of a really interesting space, isn't it? I'm out there co-hosting this podcast with you, Jane and Ruth, speaking out on issues that are of concerning Mormonism, very particularly safeguarding, but we speak out on other issues that are of concern around equality and concern that we have for those people still within the church. And it's actually quite difficult. I'll be honest with you. I'm very nuanced about the church. I'm very nuanced about what I believe, what I don't believe, what I like, what I don't like, what I'm prepared to accept and tolerate, and what I'm not prepared to accept and tolerate. I'm very nuanced about all of that. And now all of a sudden I find myself moving from an activist podcaster that has kind of gone out and challenged the church and said, you need to repent as an institution of your safeguarding failures, and you need to prioritise victims, and you need to take responsibility, to stepping into the space where I will be working side by side with stake presidents and bishops and church leaders to try and deal with issues on the ground as they come up in real life in the church. And that's kind of really difficult. I mean, heck, you know, I rock up a church in my jeans and my trainers and a t-shirt every week because that's how I'm comfortable and that's what I do. And I don't rock up every week, so that's not true. I don't go every week. I go to church every few weeks. And now I've got to find a way of working with these stake leaders, working with bishops, working with people so that they can trust me enough to be able to have those conversations that they will need to have, that will be vulnerable and difficult and challenging. So I've got to kind of be able to work in that space and that relationship. And it's actually a huge tribute to my stake president when he knows my nuance, and he knows the things I say and do better than anybody else. And we've spoken about the things I say and do. He knows about. We won't talk about that now, but he knows. And tribute to him that he's prepared to say, do you know what? Yes, I get all that about you, but you are the person that will be able to hold us to account, and you'll be able to make sure we do this safeguarding, and I want you along on my side doing that. And
that's how to call a safeguarding specialist.
Every blessing on that man's head for the fact that he's willing to do that, because he, in many respects, is taking a risk, bringing me on board in a state calling to do that.
Yeah, I really like this point that one of our dear friends is asking. Would this mean that the female stake safeguarding specialists? Now, we don't know that they're all going to be female. We've recommended that, but who knows? The female stake safeguarding specialists will be getting informed of disciplinary or concerns that have come up around a member. Yes, that is absolutely the key
part of it, because it will be impossible to do safeguarding if you're not made aware of the safeguarding issues. So if those are the safeguarding issues, they have to be part of it. And Roy, looking at how often will PVG or DBS checks be updated, they're going to have to be updated every time anybody moves into a new calling, at least every year or so. But some of that has to be bottomed out. There is some of the finer details have to be bottomed out on all of these.
And that's the beauty of it, is that this is clearly an evolving process. That's what excites me most. It's the church hasn't said, here is this, it's concrete, this is what's happening. This is a work that's still unfolding, and that gives us a lot of room to iron things out. That's not really going to work in this area, but there is that scope for communication. And as these stake safeguarding specialists start working and feeding this stuff back, we are going to see a completely different landscape.
Mm.
So yeah, our blessings go to you stepping into this space that is spiritually tough, emotionally tough, physically it's requiring stuff from you, and the fact that you're willing to sacrifice that, I think I sustain you with my whole heart, and I know you're going to be set apart, and there will be a blessing as part of that. We bless you in the role that you'll be fulfilling. I also then want to just quickly then, as we're wrapping up, talk about what this means for worldwide issues and what this means for activism in general. Now, we're going to be hanging out with Nemo the Mormon and our buddies, the Brit Vengers, on Sunday night. So we're going to be talking about this a little bit more. Ahmed Corbett said activism is really bad. Ruth, do you want to share your thoughts?
Poor
I hope he doesn't read about Jesus in the New Testament, because I think he might be a little bit shocked by that, by his behaviour. Might put him off him. Cynical me. But I think activism is at the heart of Christianity. Activism is at the heart of anybody who is not prepared to stand by and watch somebody else suffer just because it isn't them personally. That's an activist is the Good Samaritan, saying, I don't know them, they're not related to me, but I'm going to go help them because I have the voice, I have the power, I've got some money that I can help them with. If being an activist means that we take a little bit of flack at our ripe old ages, so be it. Because there are people who do not have a voice, who do not have the capacity, who are broken by the system that they are in and trying desperately to make it work, who haven't got the bandwidth to stand up for themselves. So I am prepared to do that. I know you guys are prepared to do that. I know other people in this space are prepared to do that. And if he has a problem with that, he doesn't understand Christianity.
Yeah.
Sarah.
Amen to every bit of that, Ruth. Jesus was the most radical activist that we have ever seen in history. And what's more, he criticised his own religion and the religious leaders more than anybody else has ever done, because it was necessary and it was justified to move things forward.
Yeah. So in a worldwide context, we've had, from the beginning of this work, we've had people contacting us to ask how, we live in Canada, we live in the US. Can you tell us what you do? You have any ideas how we can do this? I would imagine there is no better time for people to be having this discussion. I think it's important that we look at the lessons that can be learned about how it's been approached. We've taken a grassroots approach. We've taken an approach of working with leaders, even when we piss them off, even when they can't stand us. We don't give up. We're a delight. They love us. We are.
They love us.
Yeah, we drive them crazy, but and we feel loved. We feel supported. There's also been a lack of clarity about, the open letter. I'm going to just quickly shout out we're presenting as women at the time when Sarah and I had put this together. We're women who are actively engaged with the church. And then we're having co-sign this letter Nemo the Mormon, Laura Julian Heath, Peter Bleakley, Priesthood Dispatches, Bill Reel, Radio Free Mormon, Lindsay Hansen Park, Marco Fuentes from Mormon Neurodivergence. We've got Drew Hunter, who's a social commentator, our Mormon Freedom Fairy, Lynn Bleakley, Rami Umpton Ruminations, Maven, our wonderful Maven, Katie Moore, we love you, Katie Moore, Brian Brees, Dr. Julie Hanks. There was real concern caused by some of the, which was expressed to us about who had signed this petition too. Concern that we are somehow aligning with people who have an agenda or grudge against the church.
We addressed that very clearly, didn't we?
Yeah, which is don't tell us who the hell we can be friends with, is the gist of that. But the reality is these are our friends. These
Yeah.
are our best friends, and we disagree, we play hardball, we have the best, most spiritual discussions. And as I will frequently point out, my strongest spiritual support have been from the people in that space who have strengthened and loved me and cared for me. There is so much goodness. And like I say, this is how I think this was how it came, you know, how our work was able to be across the Mormon spectrum, how we can be listened to because we're all pushing together. I think that's a big part of it. So I want people to be thinking about what activism can look like now, because the landscape, we kept saying the landscape is changing. People have been trying to push for safeguarding for their whole church lives, and it's happening now because of a lot of things coming together at just the right time, and we got to be part of that. And oh my goodness, thank you to the committee. As much as we've driven you crazy, the area presidency, the legal team, who we have been very, you know, openly, lawyers, you're absolutely driving us crazy, with love.
But that's okay.
While we do that,
Jesus had trouble with lawyers, didn't he, Jane?
right? Yeah, and these are extremely adorable, wonderful, kind-hearted lawyers that we love, right? They're good. We are working with good people, and we disagree. And that's okay, because we don't have to be afraid of that. And this is what has grown out of that. So the Safeguarding Committee, I am so proud of you, and I want to keep being proud of you. Please don't let us down. Please keep listening, not just to us, but to especially the victims, because you see, the strongest thing we did, the most important thing we did, the strength of this campaign is in the voices of those people who've come forward. You have to listen. Don't listen to preach. Don't listen to their story because you have this intent to heal them, and that somehow by being heard that's going to make it okay. Our people are looking for justice as well as healing, and they might not find that here anymore because it may have been too much trust that's broken. Serve the way you need to serve by listening and making change. And that's the message that we hope that we have been trying to achieve all along. So we need you guys to think, and we need you guys to talk, because if it's happened here in the UK, there is no reason why this can't be replicated elsewhere.
Absolutely.
And if we can help with that, let us know. We want to hear your feedback.
Yeah, and we're quite. I think we've all said, Ruth, Jane, and I have all said that we are more than happy to work with anybody that wants to replicate this in whatever part of the world you are living. If you want to see better safeguarding in the Mormon Church, wherever you are living, then please talk to us, and we'll let you know what we did, how we did it. We'll give you some ideas, and this can be achieved everywhere. We can turn this church into a much safer place for everyone by working together.
Absolutely. Ruth, do you have any closing thoughts for us?
I'm so impressed with you two ladies. You have been such an absolute powerhouse, and I'm really proud to be associated with you. And the little bits that I've helped with, I'm thrilled to have done that. I would say my closing is: this is a start. This is not the end. There is. When I'm feeling cynical, I feel like they have done the barest minimum that they could have done 25 years ago.
Yes.
And they've been dragged kicking and screaming to the table to do the thing that they should have done willingly, and they should have been at the forefront of churches and communities seeking to safeguard in the UK. However, I will give credit where credit is due, and any step in the right direction, any change of behaviour in the right direction is to be applauded, commended, supported. And now that turn of an about face has happened, where they're actually turning and heading in the right direction, I will stand at their back, pushing gently, and help them move forward only, and not step backwards again. And I will do that from a place of non-belief now, because I believe in the people, and I believe in good people wanting to do good things. The fact that they believe in something I don't believe in anymore is irrelevant, because I would do the same for any organisation that I had family, friends, associations with, that I felt I could add insight to. So yeah, I think they've turned in the right direction. I'm keen to see them now head in the right direction with bravery, with energy, and to move forward now quickly, because there is a huge amount of direction and forward pace to go to even catch up with other faith communities in the UK. But they can do it. They've got the money, they've got the resources, and they've got the impetus now. So let's just hope and be optimistic that they're going to do that.
Before I come to you, Sarah, for closing thoughts, I just want to speak to our friend of the show, Mary, has also pointed out, thanks to Alana for her part in this as well. Just so that you know, so Alana, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Alana. Alana was my co-host in starting the show. Alana is a survivor and put her heart and soul into this space. Now that she's announced it, we can publicly announce that Alana is engaged. She is absolutely delighted. She is happy. Her daughter, her fiance, her whole family, they are very, very happy. So when I say she's busy living her life right now, it is with all the joy and support and love in the world. I am sure at some point when she has a bored 5 minutes, she might come back and hang out here again. But for the moment, Alana has graduated, and maybe she'll want to come back and have a graduation party with us that we can celebrate. But Alana, thank you so much, because your story and your vulnerability was pivotal in our beginnings. So we love you, and congratulations. We wish you all the best for your future. Sarah, do you want to close out with some final thoughts?
I think, just in case anyone's just joined at the last few minutes, let's just sum up.
Let's just do it. Yeah.
What's happened. Back in August, we asked the church to formally consider safeguarding and take on board recommendations that we made. The church have come back in the last few weeks and have confirmed to us, through several different sources, have confirmed to us that starting in the United Kingdom, about the whole of the UK, the church will be starting DBS or background checks on the 1st of July. They will be calling safeguarding specialists to work with stake presidents to shape and improve safeguarding throughout the church, and they have to be in post by the end of August. And they're not going to pilot it anywhere to see if it works. They're just going to roll it out across the entire United Kingdom. And we are incredibly grateful to the church for listening. We're grateful to the church for paying attention to this important issue. We're grateful for the church for putting up with us. They haven't excommunicated us so far. That could still happen one of these days, but so far they haven't. They've extended a calling to me to serve as a safeguarding specialist in the stake, of which I'm probably more surprised than anybody that I have a stake calling, coming from a podcasting nuanced position that I come from. But it's fabulous, because I will work with the church with integrity to ensure that. And we are so grateful for all of you that listen to this podcast, that have supported us, that have helped, that have listened to us rant and rave and talk and plead and everything we've done. We're so grateful for you, for all the support that we've had. Jane, you need to announce an event that's happening on Sunday evening.
Yes, I've got that to do. Yep. Okay. So just to quickly speak to a question about who gets the DBS checks. So again, this is something that is in very, very early stages. So we don't have all of the information yet about the specifics of what that's going to look like. But it would mean anyone who's working with specifically children, anyone who could come into contact with that type of vulnerable through their calling. Or
in its stake leadership. So like if I'm stake primary, then they will definitely be.
Right. So, but yeah, we are pushing for the best possible version of background checks. Mark specifically, who asked the question, can I just say we want to talk about background checks, and just a heads up to the committee, we want to talk about background checks. Okay,
Yeah.
There's a lot to be discussed there.
Yes.
Okay. In closing, what I really need to, and don't disappear just yet, people, because there's a couple of important things. When we spoke to a couple of the people who we've been working with in advance of this this announcement tonight, there are a few people we needed to give a heads up to. And when we told them, there has been a variety of reactions, all valid, all beautiful, and we honour every one of them. But what we're hearing overwhelmingly, and I'm going to use it as a quote, and it is going to be, I guess, Safeguarding Day One quote. You won't take your foot off the gas now, will you? The response to that is, we absolutely will not. We are here and we will continue to work in this space to support you and to do all we can to keep this space safe. To the leaders who are working, yeah, we're keeping an eye on you, and you know that, guys, right? We're gonna keep working, we're gonna keep bugging you, and it is with the best will in the world and the best intentions of the world, and we support all of the work that you are trying to do. You have blind spots. We all do. We have to do better. So we're proud of you. We want to honour this. We are shouting it from the rooftops like we said we would. And we're already booked in to give a presentation on our work with one of our restoration movement bunch of friends. So over at Community of Christ, we're going to be talking a little bit about what this work has looked like for us in the LDS Church. If you would like to join that service, it's going to be, I think it's a Zoom link only. So if you would like to be part of that, we would love to. We're taking over the community connections that night, the online worship. So it's going to be a ton of fun, we promise. Very unchurch-like and just typically us. Anyway, if you want the link,
it will be us, yeah.
Yeah, very us. If you want the link for that to come and join us, and we would love you to, can you send us a message, and we will make sure that you get the invitation to join. In addition to that, we will be hanging out with Nemo the Mormon and the rest of the Brit Avengers, because I think they have some stuff to say about this. We're going to share their initial reactions in a video shorts and things like that. We'll share that over the next few hours. Meanwhile, if you're a leader in the church, keep an eye on your inbox. Let us know what you're thinking. If you have any suggestions or ideas, or if you have any concerns that you're particularly worried about, we would just love to be able to support you. Our tool for victims reporting their stories remains open. We are still collecting the stories and concerns so that we can address them where we can, or offer support, signposting to either or both legal advice, therapeutic services, or just so that we can have a record of your story, that we're able to show a clear picture of what's really happening here in the UK. To our audience, to our supporters, to everyone who's ever donated, thank you so much. Now take this message and tell it on the mountains. Go do some activism, because it works. There is no better time to do it. It definitely works. We bless all of your journeys. Stay in touch, and we will be with you hopefully at the same time next week. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.